will California's Prop 22 pass, which would mean rideshare and delivery drivers will not be classified as employees, or will it not? And drivers in California will be for sure employees. What's up, guys? My name is Brandon Sellers here again with Jay. What's going on, Jay?
Hey, what's up, guys?
We are talking today about Prop 22, and we've given you a lot of information about Prop 22. If you've been following our content, our blog content, our video content, we've beaten this stuff to death. So I'm sure you know all about it, but we'll give you a little bit of primer if you don't. But what we want to talk about today is, what do we think is going to happen? Let's just kind of riff in terms of predictions, Jay. What do you think is going to happen? But before we get into that, if you do like our channel, if you like our content, if you like the data, the insights that we provide, please hit subscribe below. We want to keep giving you content. But let's jump right into it, Jay. I guess, should we give a little back?
Yeah, absolutely. So Prop 22 essentially is the answer and the response to AB 5. Now, the companies, Lyft, Uber, everybody in the coalition, even like DoorDash and Grubhub, are joined in to fight AB 5, which is telling these companies to classify you guys that are out there working hard as employees, because this is the truth. We can't deny it. We've been misclassified from the get-go, abused by the system. So AB 5 essentially says that, hey, guys, stop misclassifying drivers, your gig drivers, as independent contractors and start classifying them as employees. And with that comes a multitude of expenses that comes with classifying you as employees. We're talking guaranteed minimum wage, healthcare benefits, overtime, sick, insurance, the whole gamut. I mean, you could even go so far down as human resource costs, right? Onboarding. So Proposition 22 essentially is exempting gig drivers from being classified as employees and remaining in independent contractor status. That's essentially what it is in a nutshell. It's backed by the companies. In fact, I would say it's created by the companies, the gig companies. They created this in answer to AB 5.
It's definitely created by the gig companies. They Uber, Lyft, Instacart, DoorDash, and then I believe Postmates all got together. They've invested, I believe it's right at $200 million at this point in terms of overall investments. They've invested even more kind of down the stretch in terms of essentially marketing this and kind of legal costs and things like that. So they have marketed the shit out of Prop 22, and it does for sure. It definitely does. It doesn't repeal AB 5. It basically exempts rideshare and delivery drivers from AB 5, but it also does provide drivers with, I think, in terms of for their, I forgot what the term they use for the type of hours, but for essentially hours that Uber and Lyft kind of deem you're online, you get minimum wage. There are definitely kind of health benefits. If you work between 25 to 40 hours, you get pretty much you get some healthcare benefits. You get occupational accident insurance. You get occupational accident insurance to provide disability payments of up to 66% of a driver's average weekly earnings. There are some significant benefits, and I would say that Prop 22 would be a significantly better deal than what drivers are currently getting. I think the question for a lot of drivers is what's Prop 22 offering? Is that better than what AB 5 is offering?
Yeah, so they kind of dangle the carrot in front of all of us with this proposition. We gave you what I explained was just a basic background of what it does, but there's also, if you dive into it, that you can't just say, oh, hey, let's make a bill that basically says no to AB 5. You have to have some sort of give and take, right? You have to dangle some kind of incentive for for the government at least to back this as well. And what they're dangling is what Brandon just said, about guaranteed minimum wage, and also some provisions for healthcare, and that's all dependent on how many hours you put in. So the more hours you put in, the more healthcare you get. And I believe 25 plus hours you get 88% coverage, whatever the state of California mandates for minimum healthcare premium coverage, and below that you get 40 some percent. Now, in addition to the minimum wage guarantee, there's also the guarantee of 30 cents per mile to your online time. And what's important here is that we all know that driving for these gig companies, a really key important metric to keep track of is your per mileage earnings, right, Brandon? Because I mean that's what's costing you to run your business. Every mile you put on your car, it costs you gas and wear and tear, maintenance and depreciation. So your biggest expense actually comes from miles on your car, not really your hours. I mean, everyone can trade hours for income or lost income, right? But the biggest, most tangible, immediately felt loss comes from putting miles on your car. So that's a big one, the additional 30 cents per mile. But the key here is, and I say it's dangling, Brandon, and those of you watching, is because the key word there is online time. And what that means is they're not going to pay you this unless you are en route to a customer and you have a customer in your car. It doesn't mean online engaged time. Online engaged time. When you're online, that's different than being engaged. So when you're just simply online driving around aimlessly, looking for rides, looking for trips, none of these new benefits of Prop 22 apply to you.
Right. Which is really interesting. Like one thing I really want to do, and I'm excited for us to be able to do, is do a little bit of a study of what's like actual online engaged time look like for drivers. I would bet for a lot of drivers, your online engaged time versus the time that you would say that you're actually on shift is maybe 50 to 75% of that. So there, even if you end up working what you think is a 60-hour week, you might only be seeing 30-40 hours of this like online time, which is a bit of a that's certainly an issue there.
25 hours of engaged online time where you have a customer in your car, or you're en route to pick up a customer, or you're en route delivering a pickup order, a delivery. I mean, that's
right.
25 hours of that. That's a lot of time in general.
That's a lot of, yeah, like you're like, that's actually, yeah. I mean, yeah, like person in your car or going to get a person in your car. Like if you think about all like the dead time that you have, that's like, that's significant. So
let's talk about what happens if Proposition 22 doesn't pass and Californians vote no. They voted down, Brandon. If Proposition 22 does not pass and AB 5 is being forced on gig companies, then there will be less drivers out there on the road. And because they simply cannot adhere to the rules set forth by AB 5 and operate efficiently. The ability for drivers to drive at their designated whenever they want will be gone, because now when you're being classified as employees, you have to play by employee rules. And companies that pay employees, it's not a charity, right? No one's going to pay you money for work that you're not going to do, especially if for work that's not going to turn them a profit. That's the nature of employment.
Yeah. It's tricky. And I think a lot of it is like kind of separating kind of punitive versus, well, what's just going to be like really better. From like a standpoint of like, okay, what do these companies really just deserve? I definitely think there's a great argument for, yeah, you deserve to just make these folks employees and be forced to certainly do right by them in terms of ensuring everyone has benefits, ensuring everyone has like a pay that they can live on, right? And they haven't been doing that thus far. So I think there's a great argument for that. But when it comes down to it, when it's really enacted, I think there's definite fear, and we'll see what happens. When we talk about how Lyft and Uber were going to shut down, that was not a bluff. They were really going to shut down, and you're really going to have a lot less drivers. You're really going to have a lot less flexibility. You're really going to have you're really gonna have rates start to increase. It's not all gonna be okay. This is great, you know, because everyone's an employee. So I don't think AB5 is perfect. If it were me, if I could go if I could go back in time and like control the negotiations here, I would. If I was a rideshare driver, I would say, hey, that's nice that you guys did X, Y, and Z here, but I would either say, okay, take like the 120% minimum wage and double it, plus like take that expense reimbursement and if not double it, get pretty fucking close to doubling it. I would and make sure that everything from a healthcare standpoint, and then I would also add in things from like a sick leave standpoint as well. I would add that stuff in there, in order to just boost that. Or I would also like try to like make those guaranteed hours or whatever, like what are they, online engage time. I would make that a little bit more liberal. I would try to get a better AB or not AB5. I would try to get a better Prop 22, as opposed to really trying to like cement in like the employment thing, just because I think that employment status solves a lot of problems, but I also think it creates a lot of problems.
Yeah, I agree. So when Lyft and Uber threatened to shut down operations completely in California when AB5 was first passed and before they appealed their decision and that got struck down, like you said, Brendan, they weren't bluffing, guys. Like, the reason why they weren't bluffing is because when you're forced to essentially onboard and initiate hundreds of thousands of newly classified employees into your company, do you know how much paperwork that is? Like, think about it, guys out there. This isn't just like, flip a switch in the app. Congratulations, you're all employees now. They have to do all the proper paperwork. If any of us, I'm assuming a lot of us have had jobs before where we're employees, just think about how many forms you had to fill for that position as an employee. So they simply couldn't do this while maintaining normal operations, because you cannot drive if you're not an employee. And if there's no, and they're forced to make an employee, you have all that time that you have, all the forms you have to fill. Yeah. I mean, they can't operate. They literally cannot operate. So they said, we're just going to shut down. And that's the thing. Are they going to shut down and onboard all of you back into the system as employees and then reopen? Or are they going to shut down and onboard some of you, the ones that have a certain star rating, the ones that have a certain acceptance percentage, the ones that make them the most money, and then the rest of you, sorry, we're not going to hire you? Because I think a lot of drivers and a lot of us are confused by what classifying as employees means. Yes, it's great because it provides a lot of monetary incentives to drivers, but these companies aren't forced to hire you, right? They're not forced to keep you employed. It's essentially what I'm saying.
Right. And a lot of the problem with app-based work, gig driving, just like in general, isn't so much like the amount of money that you make, like from a per hour standpoint. A lot of times it's the fact that there's so much volatility. We talk about like the swings a little bit in some of our previous videos, where you have to just like kind of live with some of these swings in terms of like your earnings being, you might get $8 one day, but you might get $25, $30 an hour the other day. A lot of that's like a lot of the issue, where you don't really necessarily, you have so much volatility in your earnings. Being able to add in healthcare, decrease that volatility in your earnings, make sure that you have expense reimbursement, so that you're no longer, just trading like the value of your car, right? You're not kind of doing that. That stuff is like pretty significant. So I don't know, if it were me, I would have gone back and just like really crushed it in terms of like what a Prop 22 deal would be, and then happily pass that. But we are here. We are now. Prop 22 is on the ballot in a couple of days here. So Jay, what do you think? Do you think it's passing?
My prediction, Brandon, and those of you watching, it's going to pass. It's going to pass because of all the marketing that they have put into this. Hundreds of millions of dollars were spent on advertising in California. And not just the monetary spend on advertising. They have free publicity within everybody that uses their platform still. Every delivery that a customer orders, they're bombarded right now in California with in-app messaging about Prop 22. And believe me, they're not giving them in-app messaging about all sides, both sides of the story here. They're only giving these people that use their app their version and their side of Proposition 22.
Right.
And that's protect driver flexibility, that according to their surveys, most gig workers don't want AB5. And all of that free publicity, man. Like every customer that uses delivery, every customer that rides in a rideshare still in California, all of these customers are voters, right? So all of that spent on TV, plus all of this free exposure in their apps, I mean, there is without a doubt Proposition 22 will pass.
Yeah. I think it's gonna be close. Right now, last poll I saw, 42% with Prop 22 being up 4. Thing about propositions in California is you have to pass with over a 50% vote, and I believe everyone has to choose yes or no. I don't think you can actually vote like undecided. So you have a significant amount of undecided voters right now, and I think it's gonna end up splitting those like 12-13% that remain undecided. I think it's going to end up pretty much splitting it, and I do actually still think Prop 22 is going to pass. Like no one Prop 22 has no money. no one's spending money behind that. As you said, like Uber and Lyft, Instacart, DoorDash, they put $200 million into this at the beginning of the year, I believe, or maybe not. At some point, I believe they put a little bit more. They have a ton of essentially free marketing within their apps. They have a ton of free marketing, really, like with their drivers. Drivers do want flexibility. Their surveys say that. Our internal surveys say drivers want flexibility. I'm not quite sure if flexibility necessarily means independent, or I don't think you have to be an independent contractor to have flexibility. I think that's a little bit of like a misconception that they're driving, but I do think that there is certainly like some truth into that. But at the end of the day, I do think Prop 22 is going to pass. I would probably, if I'm drivers, I'm probably trying to figure out ways to work a better deal though with that. Whether it passes or not, I'm probably trying to get like a Prop 23 or whatever the fuck next year, where I can get that minimum wage up to 200%, and like fix that issue with like the online engaged hours. I think those are problems with AB 22. But I would, if I had to bet today, I would say that it's probably going to pass.
And we will find out by what, November 3rd?
Should be. I don't know. Like, elections are weird this year, so like a lot of talk about we're not gonna know stuff. So, and California is actually always really slow. I remember like they had like a lot of ballots coming in late, 4 years ago. So, hopefully like maybe the night of the 3rd we have some good visibility. It might take a little bit longer, but we'll know here in a week or two. So, so that's our predictions, guys. We think Prop 22 is likely to pass. Would love to hear you guys' thoughts, though. Do you think Prop 22 is going to pass? Do you think it's a good bill? Do you think they should have gone some other direction? Let us know your thoughts. We are interested to hear from you, and we will be talking about this probably a good amount more after, whether it passes or not, after the election.
Absolutely. Guys, make sure you subscribe, bell, and comment below your votes, like Brandon said.
Comment below, and yeah, take care, drive safe.